Hey, good evening. This is Matt Mosley. I'm the host of Big Pig Energy, here with Blake Sanders, Danny Beeson, and Coach Kevin Kelley. We're here tonight. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati Bearcats versus the Arkansas Razorbacks. It's week one in the Razorbacks home schedule, and we want to run through a few things. We were talking before we went on air. Cincinnati had such a great season last year on that special 2022 season. They made a run to the college football playoff, but they ran into a buzzsaw in Alabama. Alabama beat them 27-6 to end the season. Then you turn around, go into the offseason. They lose a school record 9 players to the NFL draft in 2022. The biggest losses they took were quarterback Desmond Ridder, 2 cornerbacks, Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant, and running back Jerome Ford. We're looking forward to Saturday afternoon. It's a huge game for the Razorbacks. It's the first time we've had a top 25 game in the stadium to kick off the season in quite a while. I look for this team to come back with the different position battles we've had in camp to come out strong and be confident. But looking at Cincinnati, this is where I kind of want to focus to start the show tonight. They come back this season with a bunch of different position battles in camp. Specifically at quarterback. They got a battle going on right now. I know Luke Fickle had a press conference today. They still haven't named a starter for quarterback. They're looking at 2 guys. Ben Bryant is a redshirt senior from LaGrange, Illinois, and Evan Prater. He's a redshirt sophomore transfer from Wyoming via Cincinnati, Ohio. Luke Fickle and Gino Goducci have both publicly said they don't want to play 2 quarterbacks. But I believe in the old adage, Coach, you may want to agree with me here. If you got 2 quarterbacks, you ain't got 1 quarterback.
Well, what you do is you look at it, and all things considered these days, guys are going to go, if it's dead even, I'm going with the more mobile guy because he can get himself out of trouble a little bit. That's if it's dead even. There's a handful of coaches, and y'all probably saw the stuff today. I got to go pick up Gruden and bring him to the touchdown club. And we were talking about just this very topic and, kind of referring to, we had this, we're having this discussion in our little group. And, we both prefer pocket passers because we know their job is to throw the ball downfield. We've got guys that can run the ball down the field. We want some guy that can move the ball down the field in the air, put pressure on the defense that way and run the ball. We both prefer that. But, he and I are both of the same thing. Probably 75% of the guys prefer mobile quarterbacks because they don't trust themselves or their offense as much. And that guy can bail them out of trouble. And I'm talking about offensive coordinators or head football coaches. Mm-hmm. So most people do prefer a mobile one, but I think you're still at this juncture, if you're Cincinnati, you're looking for the best guy. And if it's dead even, then you go mobile. And I think that's how they'll do that.
Well, everything that I've read and go ahead, Blake. I'm sorry.
I think one of the most interesting parts about this, honestly, is we don't know anything about their offensive coordinator. We know nothing about what his scheme is. You can go off a little bit of last year, but even still, the OC that left to go to LSU, he's a pass-heavy guy, but he didn't really have the pieces, even with as stacked as their team was last year, to run the kind of system that he really wanted to run. So we don't know what we're going to really see. I mean, everything that I kind of looked at and tried to study, I can't really find any kind of an offensive philosophy about what we might see. So I think you're right, Coach. I think that going with a mobile quarterback is going to be something that probably gives a little bit of ease to that situation. So yeah, my impression, that's probably what we're going to see.
And now what that'll do is it doesn't help us in this game. It doesn't help the Razorbacks in the Cincinnati game, not knowing. But what that does make you do is prepare for both of those. Yeah. And so now you haven't put all your eggs in one basket. So the next week and the next week, that'll help us because we've got more of a bland, foundational type development and basis for our defense rather than focusing on this one type of attack. We're getting a whole nother week in live paths of game preparation, but for something that we might see in the future, even if we prepare for both. So I don't think it's bad big picture. It just makes it, like you said, Blake, a little harder this week.
In all reports, I mean, everything that I've heard and everything that I've read in the last couple of weeks, is we're going to see them both on Saturday. It may be in different situations. It may be different series. You're going to see both of them get an opportunity to see what happens. I mean, me personally, I would rather see the pocket passer on the field instead of the guy that's mobile, because we've struggled in the past with mobile quarterbacks. I mean, look what Matt Corral was able to do to us last year. Bo Nix is not as mobile as a Matt Corral, Bryce Young, some of those kind of guys that are super, super mobile, can really move from behind move behind the line and then get out in the bootleg situation, especially in the RPO game. The one thing I do know about Cincinnati is they do like to run the RPO. And to be able to run the RPO, you've got to have a deep stable of running backs. And that's one thing that Cincinnati has, like Arkansas, they are loaded at running back. They've got a rotation of 4 guys. Ryan Montgomery's a 5'11", 208-pound senior from Franklin, Ohio. He is the second-string running back. The first-string running back coming out of camp is Charles Mcclelland. And I would note that McClelland's coming off 2 major ACL surgeries in the last 3 years. He's 5'11", 200-pound redshirt senior from Homerville, Georgia. And they've got a redshirt freshman from Jacksonville, Florida, and Miles Montgomery, and another guy that's a transfer, Corey Kiner, 5'9", 215 sophomore from Cincinnati. The thought is the carries will be pared down as the season progresses. Coach, when you got that many running backs, you've got that kind of wealth, kind of like Arkansas does. We've got 3 or 4 or 5 guys that could go at any time. How important does quality carries get to be when you've got that many running backs?
It's a great question. The number one thing that comes to mind when you were talking about all that, though, is our defensive line, the question marks there. And that's the first line of defense against that run. We worry about them rushing the passer, but if a team's going to be, not run heavy, but run a lot like Cincinnati is, that's the first question. The second thing is, it is good to have multiple running backs, but man, as a coach, it is tough to juggle that and figure out. Some backs can just go in when you get your name called and be very effective. Some backs have to get in. Y'all know this. They have to get in there and get the feel of the game, get the feel of how quickly do the holes open. Is this team running a slide defense? Are they running a gap defense? Because some kind of defense the hole opens and closes quickly. Some of it you have to be really patient before it opens. Some guys have to get the feel of that. Others trust their vision completely and can go in there on the drop of a hat and be very effective. So it depends on if those coaches have done a good job of being able to evaluate how their guys need to do it. One of and I like him, Chip Kelly. I did a study for his agent for him back when he was with Philadelphia Eagles to try to put this in. And he was running inside zone with at that time he had the guy they called Slim Shady, number 25, the really good running back that ended up going to Buffalo. And then he had the running back that played for the Cowboys for a while, Murray. And he kept running inside zone and subbing those guys in and out. Well, the numbers showed that when he gave it to Slim Shady, he could go in there at the drop of a hat and hit that inside zone. Murray, who was a very good running back for the Cowboys, was the single worst running back in the league that year in inside zone. He couldn't just go in at the drop of a hat. And Chip Kelly, I passed it through his agent, and he passed it through to him. And he came back to me. He said, "Look, I'm not going to worry about when I should play them. They're pros. They need to learn to adapt." That's kind of what came through. Well, again, if a coach doesn't recognize that, you got problems at running back. So our hope as Razorbacks is that their coaches just roll them in how they roll them in and don't worry about that. Some coaches are very in touch with that. And so I guess it remains to be seen. But that's the way you've got to play it, because some guys can go in immediately and see everything, and some guys need to get in that rhythm.
No, absolutely right. Blake, we're going to take about a 15-second break. I want Blake to give us some chance to get our advertiser mention tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah. This show tonight is brought to you by Mid-Delta Land Management Company out of Lake Village, Arkansas. They're great folks down there. If you are in the need for any kind of land management needs down across the state of Arkansas, they manage farms, hunting land, forestry all over the state of Arkansas. Give them a call. They're a big sponsor and kind of a proud sponsor of our show. Give them a shout at 870-737-2217. That's Mid-Delta Land Management Company out of Lake Village. And give them a shout.
Hey, Coach, we've got I guess kind of a break-in guest. I didn't expect him tonight. Hogdoor, how you doing, brother?
Hogdoor.
Oh, man, that's great.
Hey, Hogdoor.
Coach, I just want to introduce you to Hog Door. He's a big guy on Arkansas Twitter and Hog Twitter Nation. He is a huge Razorback fan. I know he's a huge fan of Danny's up there. Danny, you want to say hey to Hog Door?
Hey, Hogdoor.
Hogdoor.
You care if I interview you for a second?
Hogdoor.
All right. Well, we've had some players leave and some players come in this season. Who are you the most excited to watch?
Oh, man. Hogdoor. Hogdoor.
Hey, by the way, guys, I speak fluent Hog Door, so I'm going to translate for you tonight. What my good friend said here was, I'm excited for the opportunities our wide receivers are going to get on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, I'm looking forward to watching Bumper Pool and seeing if he can hit the career tackles record for the Hogs.
Hogdoor.
What do you think that the biggest challenge is going to be this year for the Hogs during Cincinnati?
Oh, man. Just Hogdoor. Just Hogdoor.
You want to repeat that for me, Hog Door, one more time, so I make sure I caught that.
Hogdoor.
Uh-huh.
Hogdoor.
Okay. What Hog Door is trying to say here is, he really wants to see the Razorbacks start the year off right this year. And what he means to say is the last time we had a top 25, when was the last time we played a top 25 game on the first game of the season? Can the Razorbacks live up to the hype of the offseason in the previous year? And can they keep from committed self-inflicted penalties and mistakes during the game? He's really excited about this game.
I can hear it. I can hear it in his voice.
Oh, 100%.
Hogdoor.
You said you're wondering how we're going to live up to the hype of, the last season, the off season. Last season we had a really much better year than we have the last few. So what do you think that our record's going to be at the end of this year?
Hogdoor. Boom, Hogdoor.
Okay. 9-3 on the season.
Hogdoor.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with you on your losses there, Hogdoor. He's got probable losses at ATM, Bama, and Auburn, with some close wins at like a place like BYU. But he also said that he's predicting, and this is a prognostication from Hogdoor, put money on the game, an unforgettable win versus Ole Miss. And he wanted me to remind everybody he hates Ole Miss. Hogdoor.
Hogdoor.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I think we're all in the same boat there, Hogdoor. One last question is, what do you think that our the final score for Saturday is going to be?
Hogdoor. All right. Hogdoor.
All right. So Hogdoor's picking the Hogs 33-19 over the Bearcats. Hogdoor says go Hogs and Hogdoor.
Hogdoor.
Hogdoor, man, I appreciate you.
Hogdoor.
Oh, yeah, okay. Right on. Hey, I just want to tell you, hey, we appreciate you being part of the show tonight. I know it's a big deal. You're coming from an undisclosed location, and folks love to hear from Hogdoor. So, if you're at the ball game and you run into Hogdoor, man, give him a Hogdoor and keep moving forward. Man, we appreciate you. Have a great night.
All right. Hogdoor.
Gotta love Hogdoor. God love him. Back to Cincinnati, man. That was fun. Back to Cincinnati. On offensive line, this is where I think we compare most favorably as far as if you put the teams on paper side by side. I think our offensive line and their offensive line are pretty comparable. The difference with Cincinnati's is Cincinnati's offensive line is a little older. I think most of these guys are juniors and seniors. We're playing some younger guys at offensive line. One of these guys I know Coach is really interested in, one of his guys from PA. Mike Cummings, he's a new offensive line coach, comes over from Central Michigan, coached with Coach Guldugi from Central Michigan when he came over to – I know I'm butchering that guy's name. Blake's laughing at me. The thing about Cincinnati's line that I saw, Coach, They're big, they're long, and the tape I saw, they're nasty. They don't stop. They average 6'5", 301 across the front. They got a few guys tilting the length column at like 6'8", 6'9". Specifically, Lorenz Metz, number 51, guys. You're going to want to watch this right guard. He's 6'9", 330. He's a first-team All-American last season. Coach, how important is that offensive line play going to be for the Bearcats on Saturday?
I think it's the most important for any team that plays Saturday, not just the Bearcats. And with their offensive line, and I think ours is really talented. I just hope they can get the experience they need really quickly and get to where I think potentially they can be. But, with them and the guys they've got coming back and that experience, that big game experience, that college football playoff experience, I don't think they're going to be, starstruck by the University of Arkansas and these lights. Those guys that came back, which is almost all of them, they were there. They've been in a bigger game than this. And, with, like we talked about, new quarterbacks behind them, pretty new receiving core, I bet you their coaches and especially their O-line coaches beating into their head, we go as you guys go. And that is so true about every football team. And I think, we made our picks earlier in the week, and I based some of my picks on that very thing.
Yeah, we're gonna go back through those picks tonight too, so we'll get everybody up to date.
Yeah, Coach, I just wanted to ask you, what do you think about with coaching turnover, especially in those along the line? I mean, you're not going to find anybody that's going to match up to a Cody Kennedy and Sam Pittman coached offensive line from a technical perspective. I don't think so. What do you think about with a new line coach, new offensive coordinator, even though they've got this pretty senior laden line? Do you think it's going to have any effect on just maybe some of the technical aspects of it? Aside from that?
I don't think so, because if I'm their head coach, and I think he does a really nice job, what you do is go, hey, we know what's working for us. So he went out and find a guy that he thought was a good coach that could either add to that or that wasn't going to change what they were already doing, because that is really one of those, if it ain't broke, don't fix it type things. And you have to, I mean, that is a very successful head coach. He's not going to go get a guy that's going to come in and change everything because he's got the same guys coming in. We want to run the same system. I'll bet anything he went and found a guy he could plug into them that made that work. So I think a lot of times that might not happen. If they were less experienced, maybe that does throw them in a disarray. They come in or their line hadn't been successful, come in and change everything up. Then game one's a great time to play them. But I don't think that gives us an advantage this game. That's just me personally, but I don't think so.
Moving on from the offensive line, looking at Cincinnati's defense, I think this is where the weak spots are going to start bearing their ugly head in the game. Cincinnati took a huge hit in the offseason on defense. Multiple NFL draft picks, then you take graduation on top of that. They took a significant hit, especially in the secondary. Losing All-American cornerbacks and Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant. How do you replace two All-American cornerbacks? I mean, these guys it was a no-fly zone for that defense much of the year last year. I mean, granted, they got exposed against Alabama a little bit. Alabama still had Jamison Williams going into that game, and we all know what that kid was capable of last year. I think if they'd have had John Mechie in that game, it probably would have been a lot worse, because, that's the one thing I saw from Alabama last year was when Mechie went out, then they lost Jamison Williams. They really didn't have – that's the first time I saw a little bit of a chink in Alabama's armor at receiver, because they didn't have that next guy step up and really take that next level step with the wide receivers. In the past, it was just one guy would go out and the next guy would roll in, and it's been like that for the last 5 or 6 years. But they really exposed those two in that playoff game last year and had a lot of yards racked up against them. I mean, how is that going? I mean, if you're Kendall Briles, coach, and you're getting ready to do this game, do you come out in the first series or two and try to test them 20 yards, 30 yards, 60 yards down the field to see what they got?
And the way you put that is going to make me answer the question a little differently. You said if you're Kendall Briles. If I'm Kendall Briles, I don't. If I'm Kevin Kelley, I do, because I trust, I want to trust what we've taught our guys.
That's right.
I want to trust our reps, our practice. But I don't think their mindset's that way. I think Sam Pittman's an O lineman. I think he thinks they can line up and run the football. And then let's take our shots and test them in the natural flow of the game. When I would be thinking, let's put those guys on their heels. Let's see what we have early, and then we will adapt the rest of the game to it. But because what you accomplish early, if you throw it down the field, and I don't mean bombs, but I mean test those corners on some comeback routes, on some dig routes, some in routes. And let's test those guys. And even if it doesn't work, those corners back off. Those linebackers don't come down as hill as much. In the running game, it helps us. There's a way for that to help us. But I do believe that Arkansas, not knowing what they've got, is going to start off slow playing this thing, going to what they think is their strength, and that's that monster running game with the different guys and KJ Jefferson. Mm-hmm. And I think if they do drop KJ back, I think it will probably be, unless they're forced to by not running it well on first down and putting themselves in second and long, I think it will be when KJ drops back. If you're not sure it's there early on, tuck it and run it, because you've been very effective doing that.
I mean, do you think it's going to be more than like check one, check two, take off, run, or you think it's going to be check one and then he's gone?
I think it's going to be early, check one, and he's gone.
Yeah.
Maybe if they feel good about him, check one, check two, and then he's gone. And then if they feel like he's just having a game, then it's okay, KJ, stay back there, go through 4 progressions, and then if it's not there, you can take off.
Well, and Coach, that's kind of been my knock on him since last year, is I want to see KJ, because everybody, the hype around him is dark horse for Heisman, dark horse, top quarterback in the country, that kind of stuff. And I want those things for that kid. I think he's earned it. He's worked his tail off. He's put his time in as a backup. He could have left a couple of times. He's stuck around. He's been here for a while. Want success for him. But I want to see him progress in his game. He averaged 235, I think 235 or 234 a game in the air last year. His long game as far as passing was against Georgia Southern, who was honestly, Georgia Southern generally is a pretty salty football team. Not on an SEC quality team, but they're usually a pretty good team. Now, they were pretty much in flux last year with a lot of stuff going on between the AD and the coaching staff. As a matter of fact, I think the coach quit or got fired after the Arkansas game last year. But his top game last year was 366 through the air. I want to see him. Can he go through his progressions in a top 25 game, or is he going to pull it down and run it every time he gets a little pressure up the middle, or somebody gets on his back door? But the other part of that too, and Danny or any of the rest of you want to kick in here, I'd love to hear your take on this. I think a lot of this comes back on the receivers as well.
I want to hear them too, from a layman's view,
yeah,
from a fan, a true hardcore fan's point of view.
Yeah.
I want to hear what y'all think, how that's going to go too.
I think that, sorry, Danny, I think that one of the things that I'm most curious about is what's going to happen now that Treylon Burks is gone. When you have a guy like that, to me, just from an outside perspective, it almost gives the quarterback an excuse or a reason not to go through their progressions as much and develop as much as they should. So I'm kind of interested to see if maybe the absence of Burks has really forced him to operate like a more balanced and run through his progressions more normally, by not having that. Not to say, obviously, you never want to say that having a guy like that's a crutch, because if you've got somebody like that on your team, you go to him as often as you possibly can. But what does he look like now that Treylon Burks is gone, and what is his progressions going to look like? That's really the thing that I'm most kind of curious about. I personally, I think it benefits him actually from a development standpoint, having some receivers that aren't as proven yet.
It's kind of my thing. I feel like having Burks last season was obviously amazing. I feel like there was a lot of just trust between those two. I know that we've talked about it. All of Twitter's talked about it. Burks is down there somewhere. So that was always exciting to see. I am excited to see, new receivers getting more targets, have it a little more even rather than, one man getting all the passes. I do think that it's going to help KJ grow a lot in his game. So, I mean, I love seeing KJ run the ball. I think it's exciting. I think he's really shifty with what he does. So, but at the same time, I would love to see a lot of our receivers get more targets.
Yeah,
So
you
great,
kinda said
great
it,
point by both y'all. Is this going to be KJ walking out there and not feeling comfortable and struggling, or is it going to be the chance, like Danny said, hey, Traylon Burke's not here, I have to develop as a progression type guy? That's a great point. And really, that's going to dictate our whole entire season, in my opinion, because we're going to have to throw the football against the defenses in the SEC. We're not going to be able to line up and run over LSU up front wise, and we're not going to be able to. And the same thing for Ole Miss, Alabama, as you go down the list. So does it open up and make him develop, or does it take a step back in his progression and he goes backwards or turns around the other way?
Well, and I think this game is going to give us an opportunity, one up front, because you got a couple of guys that are newer guys to the program. Luke Jones is one that transferred in, one of your guys at left tackle. You got Dalton Wagner coming back, Ricky Stromberg coming back, Bo Limmer coming back. So there's some depth and some seniority on the offensive line. You're too deep. You got a couple of freshmen in Chambly and Robinson kid. Both big kids, but they're young. They're 18, 19 years old. They've not played a snap of major football yet. I mean, they were big guys in high school, highly recruited, but they haven't got any snaps yet. So our offensive line matched up against their defensive line. I was looking at their numbers today. They got one guy, Jabari Taylor. He's 6'1", 280, super senior from up in Akron. One of the other guys are really high on in the middle, Jawan Briggs, number 18, is 6'1", 313-pound defensive lineman. He's a junior out of Cincinnati. And then another one of their ends, number 42, 6'4", 275, another super senior out of Cincinnati. Both of those guys, the two ends and the nose tackle that they've got, I want to see how much push our offensive line can have and snap the ball. Can we get, because last year we averaged just over 5 yards a carry for the season. Some games we were averaging 7 or 8 yards a carry. On average in college football, if you can average 6, 7 yards a carry and get 200 yards passing, you're going to win. I mean, it's going to win you football games because it slows the game down to a crawl. They have to do things. Now, I know, Kendall, Coach Bryles, he loves to still run things at the pace. I get that. But it's that going in the first, second quarter, you're getting beat up by those big guys. When it gets into, like we saw against Texas last year, by the third quarter, the defensive line starts laying down a little bit because they just don't got the gas anymore. You look even the second level of the defense, you look at the linebackers that they've got at Cincinnati. Wilson Huber, number 2, 6'4", 250. Number 20, Deshaun Pace, 6'2", 215. Tyler Van Fossen, 6'2", 222. These guys are what I would call undersized for SEC caliber linebackers. There's one guy that I really want to keep an eye on and see what he does on Saturday, Ivan Pace. It's a kid from Miami of Ohio, from Cincinnati. Arkansas was recruiting him. My understanding was he was coming for a visit, canceled at last minute, and committed to Cincinnati. So that's one kid that I want to see because I know we had him on our radar to bring him in as a possible option to play for the Hogs. If you move back into the secondary of Cincinnati, this is where things start getting interesting. That secondary game versus our receivers, it's the battle of what you don't know. Because what you don't know sometimes will kill you. Looking at them, Cincinnati's got two guys on defense that I think they're going to lean on, one for leadership and one to pick up production in the defensive backfield. One of them is number 9, Arquan Bush, 6 foot tall, 198-pound senior out of Cleveland. And then number 3, safety Javon Hicks. Javon Hicks is a ball player, guys. He reminds me a lot of a Jalen Catalon. He's a downhill guy. He likes to run up, hit people. He's smart and he's cagey. I know that, I've been listening to Cincinnati call in on the internet and listening to different local folks talk about this team. I know they're hoping for a repeat performance of last year. I just think it's too much to ask with the kind of performance they had, with the talent they've got on the roster today, to say that they're going to be able to come out with a somewhat seasoned. I'm not going to say completely veteran. We're not as veteran as we were last year. But I think it's a lot to ask for Cincinnati to come into Arkansas that first game out of the box and be able to be ultra, ultra competitive. Do I think it's going to be a close game because it's the first game of the season? Absolutely. But I think at the end of the day, the Hogs are just too much. That's just where I'm at. I'd love to hear you guys, your guys' opinion on that.
Matt, does Luke Fickle run a 4-man front as base?
He will run a 3 and a 4.
Okay.
They run a 4-2-5, kind of similar to what we do, but they will run a 3-down lineman. The other nose tackle that they got, and I'd have to go find his number again. He's a true sophomore. The kid didn't play much last year. So there's going to be some gaps in talent there. The biggest thing with Cincinnati's defense is their linebackers and their secondary. Their secondary is where they made their money last year.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Does your scheme adjust losing guys like Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant? How much of that do you think they're going to have to account for scheme? And kind of what do you think that's going to look like? Do you think we're going to be able to test our secondary a bit and make some hay there?
I don't know if we're going to try.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how much they're going to try. I mean, we're going to get into that here in a second as far as, offensive plays to, run to pass. I kind of want to hear y'all's take on that. I know we've talked about it before, through the game, the first 15 plays of the game. I'd like to know the differentiation between everybody, but I'm like, Coach, I don't know how much we're going to test them, what I would call deep, and by deep, more than 30 yards. I think it's going to be passes under 20. And then if the receivers are able to get loose and make a break, then, obviously that's going to add yards. But the actual from the point A to point B, from throw to catch, I just don't see them throwing anything more than 15, 20 yards down the field at a time. Now, Kendall Briles may completely make a fool out of me on Saturday and come out and throw a 60-yarder right off the bat. But
Malik Hornsby go route.
Well, he'll pull a Bobby P and just chuck one, and everybody thinks he's going to kneel it. I mean, it could happen, but they've been in camp with these guys the last 5 or 6 weeks. They know what they got and what they ain't got. And I think that shows by the guys that they've got starting at receiver. I mean, Matt Landers, Keytron Jackson, and Jalen Hazelwood are starting at receiver Saturday. So, do they, by all news that's coming out of camp, if you listen to what the coaches are saying, Matt Landers is killing folks deep. Hazelwood's killing guys down the middle, and so is Keytron Jackson. So, but I also know coach speak when I hear it. I mean, what are they going to come out and say? We suck at wide receiver. We can't catch nothing. They're not going to say that, So we don't know what we don't know. I mean, that's just I think that's where we're at with the receivers right now. When you lose 2 guys, especially a corner like that, I've seen it happen in Alabama the last couple of years. They'll lose 2 major corners, and there's a little bit of a dip, but somebody in the back end picks it up. And that's what everything I've read about Cincinnati, they're really looking for this Javon Hicks guy to kind of be the glue that brings everything together with Cincinnati's defense.
And that guy can make a big difference. That guy on the back end playing safety, if the guys in the front, if the corners trust him to back them up, they're more aggressive. Now they're playing the short stuff better and trusting that guy over the top, especially if they're running that 4-2-5. That gives those safeties a lot more ways to help. So, I think, we're going to get around a minute. Let's guess how many runs passes on the first 15 plays. But, leaning towards that, my hope is, and I'm not going to be unrealistic and hope they come out and throw the ball around the yard. I don't think they should throw it deep early, but I want to get the receivers involved. I want to throw some short passes to them, get them involved. And y'all know my philosophy. I think if they're involved in the game with a catch, they'll block better, and we need them to block well too. So I'm hoping Arkansas comes out, runs it a little bit, uses play action to suck the linebackers in. Let's throw some 7, 8, 9-yard passes, put a little pressure on those corners, and then we can come back and run the ball. But I'm hoping we do that and get those receivers some experience early, so they're not our liability or our question mark in the fourth quarter when we're going to need them.
I think the one thing, and Luke Fickle kind of talked about this in his press conference. He said, the one thing that Cincinnati can't game for, they don't have a way to really prep for, is a 6'4", 245-pound mobile quarterback. And I think that if there's one thing that may make their defense look a little suspect, that's that. I don't know that they necessarily have been able to really prep for that. And he kind of alluded to that in his press conference. So I'm kind of interested to see what kind of pressure that puts on them as well.
So let's get down to it. Run, pass. I'm going to go around the room real quick. Coach, first 15 plays, how many run plays, how many pass plays?
I'm in my mind, I'm betting more with my head, my heart than I have my head. Let's say 9 pass, 6 run. I'm hoping that we come out and throw some short ones, get guys involved.
Okay. Blake.
Even split as you can get. I'm going to go 8 pass, 7 run.
Danny.
I'm gonna go with 10 and 5.
Which way?
Well, 10 runs, 5 pass.
Yeah, you and I are on the same boat. I'm thinking 10 run to 5 pass. I think with a guy like Rocket Sanders, AJ Green, James Joyner, some of these other guys they've got running back, the offensive line. If the offensive line early, I think if they're getting pushed, and I think if Sam sees that they're getting pushed, and maybe not the first series, because you never know first series out of the gate how things are going to go. You may go 3 and out on the very first series just because of different things. But one of the things that worries me is penalties on the offensive line. False starts were a problem last year early. Holding penalties early were a problem. They cleaned that up as the season went on, but can they come out and play clean? I'm more concerned with them playing clean and getting pushed right out of the gate, that first 10 or 15 plays, than I am them scoring points right there. Because if they come out and they're playing clean, when they play clean, they get confident. The more confident they get, the harder they're going to play, more opportunities we're going to have. So,
and by the way, on our little pass thing we did, let's say the closest one wins. The other guys, who do we play next week? South Carolina. Have to write and hold up and show the screen. I love Gamecocks. We got to have something on it. Fair?
That's true.
Write it on there.
So the loser gets okay.
Losers, 3 losers.
3 losers.
No, Greg will have a prediction too. Greg has a prediction.
Greg will have a prediction too. I'll get
4 losers. 4 losers. I love Gamecocks.
Yeah, I'll get Greg's later on. So moving on real quick.
I'm just gonna play Enter Sandman over and over and over.
Yeah, no. I'm still upset that they didn't choose Cock Commander as their mascot name. That one kind of hurt me a little bit.
Did they choose Generals or General?
Generals something or other.
It's that commercial. It's the commercial. It's terrible. Yeah.
I think they could have gone a different way with that, and I was really disappointed that didn't work out. Real quick, I've got Greg's score. Greg's picking out Arkansas 31-24. I want to get your guys' score. Also, I want to mention real quick, we are doing a pick'em this year with Big Pig Invasion.
Big Pig Energy.
Or excuse me, Big Pig Energy. I'm sorry, my bad. We had to have a name change. My fault. I'm an idiot. Go on Twitter. It's at Big Pig Energy or at AR Sportsnet. You can go in there. We're going to have the picks on there. All the panelists from our show tonight have their picks. I've already got mine done. We're doing Pitt WVU on Thursday night, the Fighting Burts in Indiana on Friday night, Memphis and Mississippi State, Oregon, UGA, Notre Dame, Ohio State, FSU, and LSU, and of course the Hogs and the Bearcats. So real quick, I want to get Danny. Let me get your score for the Hogs on Saturday.
I'm gonna go 28-21 Hogs.
Okay. Blake.
I'm sticking with my 35-28 Hogs.
All right. Coach. You got to be I know you're going to be contrary just because everybody else.
31 Cincinnati, 28 Razorbacks.
Y'all heard it here first, man. Coach picks Cincinnati.
I just think I'm just worried about all the things we've talked about. I see all the negative as a coach.
I'm actually going to change my score. I originally said a couple of days ago 27-21. And then I thought about it, I prayed about it a little bit, and I got my heart right. I think the game's going to be tied going into the fourth quarter. I think it's going to be 27-27 all going into the fourth quarter. I think this game's going to come down to Cam Little. Cam Little, somebody nobody's talking about. And the one thing that I heard from Sam Pittman today in his press conference, or yesterday in his press conference, is they don't worry about the kicker because the guys believe that Cam Little can make the kicks.
Yep.
And
I like what he said about
that right there kind of gives me a whew, because that's something we ain't had in a long time. We've had some good kickers, Zach Hawker, some of these other guys that have been through the program the last 10, 15, 20 years. We've had some really good kickers at Arkansas. We've had a couple of guys a guy named Little that was really, really good back in the day before I was born, but I'm not as old as Coach is, but just picking at you, Coach. So I'm going to go 30-27 Hogs final. I really think it's going to come down to Cam Little right there at the end. That's I got that down. I marked it down on paper. Last thing we're going to do real quick, one player, offense, defense, the player to watch for the game for Cincinnati. We're going to start. Greg picked his. Greg couldn't be with us tonight. G-Money. He picked KJ Jefferson and Drew Sanders. Danny?
I'm going to go for defense. I'm going to say Catalan just because missing him last season. I think that being back at the start of the season, it's going to there's going to be a lot of leadership on the defense that we were kind of missing out on. And for offense, I think that Hazel is one that I'm going to be watching just because, I'm, coming in this year and feeling like he's got something to prove coming from OU. I think that he's going to kind of be a rock star for us.
Blake?
Matt, I hate to do it to you, buddy, but I was mad at myself. I'm mad at myself last time whenever we did this. Offense, I got to go Rocket Sanders. Man, what everybody's been saying about him. I picked up a little bit from KB's interview whenever he was talking about him. He made the comment, that dude could babysit my kids any day. I think there is something special about that guy. Like, I think he just has that kind of energy about him that I don't know. It seems like one of those things that's really going to translate on the field. I'm excited to see it. I mean, he was already just kind of a freak show last year. You kind of see glimpses of it. I don't really think that he had kind of quite bought into that yet. Really excited to see him. Defense, I'm going to stick with what I said the other day. Hudson Clark. I really just want to see him have a good year. I want to see what he looks like. See if he can stay in position. See if he can keep from getting torched a little bit. I think he can. I think that was probably more of a developmental thing more than anything. So excited to see if some of those things that have been said about him in camp are going to hold true against some of the higher level competition we got to play.
I'm right there with you. I want to see if Hudson Clark can put some of the stuff behind him in man coverage. Can he progress in this game? In his zone, the kid's an absolute nightmare. He's awesome in zone. You get him one-on-one in man coverage, that's when things gets a little freaky. Coach?
Catalan, we interviewed him on the Buzz the other day. I loved everything he had to say, the way he approaches the game, the way he's approaching the season, the commitment to the type of leadership that he wants to be on the defense, the fact that he's not worried about NFL, he's not worried about postseason awards, he's not worried about the fact that he was named by the SEC coaches to the preseason All SEC team. He just has the right attitude, and I think he's ready for big things. I agree with Danny completely on that. On offense, I really want Hudson Henry to bounce back. I think use of our tight ends with these young guys is going to be good. But I'm going to go for my first significant starting playing time in Luke Jones at maybe the most important position in the game besides quarterback, and that's at left tackle. And Luke's geared up. I've been chatting with him. He's excited about it. He's waited since the day he walked off Notre Dame's camp to start for the Hogs. He's getting his chance. So, man, I hope that inspires him to do big things.
You know, and I'm right there with you. I normally would pick an offensive lineman myself, but there's one kid on offense that I am really, really interested to see play, and that's Matt Landers. You know, 6'5". Press book's got him at 197. I saw him on camera the other day. Kid looks like he's a solid 210, 215. He's a 4'5", 4'4" running kid out of St. Petersburg High School via Toledo, via Georgia. Saw this kid play at Georgia when he was a freshman, and the kid has just got some wheels. And my understanding is he really knows how to use his body and leverage and length to catch the football. He's also, coach, and forgive me if I'm using the wrong terminology, there's not a point on his body that he can't catch the ball. The kid is good around his ears. He's good down low. He's good in the middle. He's good up top, got a good high point. You know, that's one guy that I want to see. I want to see us have somebody can reliably stretch the field, because the way we run the football and the way we're capable of running the football, there was games last year, had we been able to stretch the field a little bit, and I'm not talking 60, 70 yards. I'm talking hit somebody in stride at a 15-yard, 20-yard clip. It totally changes the way the defense plays. It opens things up underneath. It gives us more opportunity to get in the flow and really get in a rhythm. And as the game goes on, wear those guys down. On defense, you know, the other day I picked two guys, and I'm sticking with my two guys. And the reason I'm sticking with them is neither one of them are starting. But I'm a defensive guy. I love these two guys, Cam Ball and Landon Jackson. Both of them are on the two deep chart. Neither one of them are starting right now. I believe by the end of the season, both these guys are going to be major players for this football team. You know, Cam Ball in the middle, Landon Jackson on the edge at 6'7", with the kind of length and lean he's got at 275, and be able to have the twitch that a kid his size has got. I really want to see if he can get to be a major player on the defensive line. So I picked two. I'm the host. I'm allowed to do that. Guys, don't forget, Thursday night, we've got a Twitter space. Big Pig Energy is going to be live on Twitter, on their own Twitter space. I'll be there. Blake's going to be there. Danny's going to be there. Lord willing, Greg's going to be there. Maybe we'll get Coach live from Las Vegas. Maybe we won't. We don't know. He just shows up, which is awesome. I love it. Coach, I appreciate you taking time to be with us tonight. I know it was a little bit crazy with getting to Vegas and everything else that's going on. Blake, I appreciate you and Danny getting on tonight as well. Hey, next week, we're going to be chopping up what happened in the Cincinnati game. We're going to be talking about the South Carolina game. Make sure you're with us each week. This is going to get really interesting. We got some giveaways and some contests coming. Go ahead, Coach.
Hey, dude, are we doing and maybe y'all have covered this before I got on, the Big Pig Energy college football pick'em thing, or is that just on Twitter?
That is just on Twitter.
Okay.
It's going to
Talk
be
about
through
it next
Twitter.
week.
Yeah,
I studied it. I wanted to give my picks against the spread.
Oh, I mean, if you want to give
I'll roll down them. I'll roll down them quick. I'll roll down them
Okay,
quick.
Roll
In
quick,
Vegas,
Coach. Go ahead and tell us why.
I sat in the sports book studying the lines. You got Pitt, West Virginia. I'm taking West Virginia against the spread in that game. You got Illinois, Indiana. Golly, as much as I hate to do it, I'm going with Illinois. I think they played a game and they get more that they'll improve more between 1 and 2 than any other game. I think football teams do that. Oregon, Georgia, man, a good size spread. I'm going with Oregon in that one. I think it's going to be tough. East Coast game. Oregon's basically playing at like 9 a.m. their time. But I think Oregon's going to cover that spread. Memphis, Mississippi State, I'm going with Memphis to cover. Notre Dame, Ohio State, I just think 17 points is a lot. It is a lot in a game of that magnitude by two pretty highly ranked teams. And I think, if nothing else, the sheer emotion and the care that you see of those guys behind that brand new football coach at Notre Dame, I think they're going to play hard. And partially, I just can't stand Ohio State, so I'm pulling against them too. But I think Notre Dame covers that spread. FSU, LSU, I hate both those teams, and I have since Bobby Bowden left FSU, and since very short-lived, since Orgeron hated LSU. I actually liked Orgeron. But I'm going to go with FSU there because they got a game under their belt. And then Hogs Bearcats, I think we already know that one against the spread. I'm not sure that Cincinnati beats them, but I think Cincinnati covers that game.
Yeah, I mean, the spread right now is 6.5. I mean, the money line on that game, Cincinnati's plus 204. The Hogs are minus 245. Over and under is 52. I mean, if I had to lay money on the over and under, I'm going to take the over. Honestly, I think it's going to be more than 52 points.
And I think they got a good line there.
Yeah,
because we just don't know. I mean, that's a good place to put it.
Well, in the first time in a long, long time on a major game, ESPN's got Arkansas pick consensus spread pick at 83%. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing.
That's the kiss of death.
That scares the crap out of me. So, I live in a state where we don't have live sports betting, so I can't bet. But
you're wrong. You're so wrong.
Well, legally,
Oakland's got their Oakland's got. You live in.
I'm in Alabama, Coach. Yeah,
that's right.
We don't have online betting here, so I can't.
We've got three of those places you can go.
What about in Virginia up there, Danny? You got.
I honestly, I haven't been getting into betting much, but this is I'm starting. I tweeted about it last night. I think this is the season I'm going to get into it. It's going to be real bad. I'm going to lose a lot of money, but
if you never have done it, only do it as a fun hobby because it's a losing proposition in the big picture.
Yeah,
I'm looking at these casinos out here, and they didn't build them off people beating them. That's for sure.
Right. He says this as he's got Treasure Island and Trump Tower over his shoulder.
I'm in the Venetian, which is the second biggest hotel on the planet. And again, they didn't build this thing off me and you beating them. That's for sure.
That's right. That's right. So, hey, that's going to be another part of our show going forward. Coach is going to talk the betting lines there towards the end of the show. My bad, Coach. I forgot to add that in there tonight.
No, that's all good.
Follow us for that. It's going to be fun every week on those to follow and see how Coach does. To see if he wins or loses. We'll try to put a graphic up.
For those new people like Danny, it doesn't matter if you find a guy that's good at picking winners or good at picking losers. If I go 0 for 6 next week tonight or whatever, next week bet opposite of everything I say. Okay. You can find guys who are bad and just bet opposite and you can make money.
That's right. That's right. What you got, Blake?
Now let's give a last minute shout out to our sponsors and everybody.
Yeah, go ahead.
First, big thank you to Arkansas Sports Network and Brad over there for giving us a platform to do this little experiment and see if we can have some fun with it. But also a big shout out to Mid Delta Land Management out of Lake Village just for supporting us, believing in us as we kind of get this thing off the ground. We really hope to add some more sponsors and opportunities. If you know of anybody, if you have any desire to help support us and what we do, give us a shout, hit us up on Twitter. Mid Delta Land Management is the one that's kind of really given us a good kickoff and place to go. Hit them up for your land management needs. They do hunting, farming, forestry all over the state of Arkansas. Hit up their number 870-737-2217. Give them a shout. Tell them we sent you, and let's get some support rolling in for Big Pig Energy.
Absolutely. And to Blake's point, guys, make sure you follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Okay, on Facebook we're under Arkansas Sports Network. On Twitter you're going to find us at AR Sports Net, or you can follow us on our own page, our own Twitter page at Big Pig Energy. We're always on there. The DMs are always open. We want to have the fans interact with us. That's what this is all about. Remember to find us on Thursday night. Got our space Thursday night. We're going to talk about the Cincinnati game. We're going to talk about the SEC. We're going to talk about this weekend's ball games, our picks. I'm sure we're going to end up booting a couple of folks. We're going to have some fun. It's going to get a little rowdy for a couple of hours. Catch us again on Saturday post-game. I'll be live doing a post-game reaction space. I think Danny's going to be there. Blake's going to be around. We're going to have some fun on Saturday night. God knows what that's going to turn into depending on how this game goes. If it goes the way the three of us want it to go, it's going to be fun. If it goes the way Coach is going to want it to go, I don't know what it's going to be. So we're going to have some fun. Guys, I appreciate your time again tonight, man. Come back and see us next week. We're going to be right back here with you again, talking about the Cincinnati game and then talking about the upcoming game with South Carolina next Saturday. Everybody have a great afternoon. We appreciate your time.